Oh, hi, this is Quintus Jett from Abundance for America. What I've been doing on this channel is, and through Abundance for America, what we've been doing is providing like hope, direction, and a sense of support to those who are supporters of Andrew Yang, people participating in the grassroots movement of Andrew Yang, and that's still continuing to be the case. Because even for those people who are doing things even for those who are maybe voting for other candidates in the primary, given his suspension, we are still like sort of moved by Yang, and that's still affecting how we do things. So please subscribe to the channel for updates. Like if there's something that, if you find this valuable, share this video to other people who you think would need to see it, would benefit from it. And I appreciate the feedback we've gotten from other people too. So please help us help me and us in Abundance for America do this better. So the title for today is Andrew Yang and the Super Tuesday Shock to the System. This is partly motivated by a piece written in 538.com about a couple days ago. The title of this is called "Why So Many Black Voters Are Democrats Even When They Aren't Liberals." So pretty much African Americans are the base of the Democratic Party when you start seeing the numbers, and as I will describe, or as that article described, and I will sort of review with you, most African Americans are not self-identified liberals. So what's going to be the effect of that? So today, at this moment, as I'm recording this, we're about 3 hours away from the results from South Carolina. So we're about to hear from South Carolina what the results are very soon. We are also going to see if we have Super Tuesday on deck. So Super Tuesday has a lot of states going on from the Northeast, from like Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts. To the west, we got California, we got Utah, Colorado, Minnesota to the north, and as well as places like American Samoa, one of the U.S. territories. That also means like Democrats abroad. That's all going to happen on Super Tuesday. But then we also have a chunk of states in Super Tuesday. It's almost like a legacy of Super Tuesday, which really, like maybe 30 years ago, was really came to more prominence as a way for southern states to be early. So we have a series of states on Super Tuesday, including North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, with also Oklahoma and Texas. These final states are states which have a lot of African Americans participating, and they are, and most are not self-identified liberals, but they are Democrats. And so basically, it's through that perspective we can start asking these questions that we all have about what's about to happen. So like, will Sanders boom? Will that continue? Will Biden demonstrate evidence of a continued comeback? Will Elizabeth Warren be able to make a difference really going forward? Bloomberg, who kind of made this bet about only applying to Super Tuesday states, what will that look like going forward? Like, how will that look? Will it pay off his not even being on the ballot to Super Tuesday? Will that work? And what's going to happen with the others? Buttigieg, let me see, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Steyer, and Gabbard. So basically, all these questions are going to be addressed with a strong weight coming from Black Democrats who are not, many of whom do not self-identify as liberal. And then finally, how this relates to those interested in following Andrew Yang. You might have noticed they've cleaned up the Yang 2020 website. He's going to be guest hosting on The View this week, in addition to I guess the CNN analyst work he's been doing. It looks like, oh yeah, and then he's going to announce something soon. Like, he's going to announce something this week about what his next plans are. So it looks like for Andrew, all this is happening, this sort of movement of these particular states, hearing more from the voices of African Americans, mostly in the South, who are not self-identified liberal. That's going to weigh in at a time when Andrew looks like he's about to ignite something. I mean, who knows we'll see what it is. But it looks like there is evidence of him igniting things that he is not. It doesn't look like he is not going to just go to rest until 2022 or 23. That there's still some more that he has planned. Okay, so what's the nature of the shock that's happening? There's some certain interesting facts in that 538 piece that I mentioned that came out a couple days ago. Again, that's called "Why So Many Black Voters Are Democrats Even When They Aren't Liberal." Two things that jumped out. In 2016, black voters in the primary represented 24% of the whole primary electorate. That means 1 in 4 people who determined the nominee last time, that was like a peak, were African American. So I think what that number shows us is that overall, every single candidate has done a horrible job really paying the proper priority that they should be playing to the black vote. I mean, when a constituency is 25% of your base, you really should be paying attention to that. So that's number one. And then second, that piece also cited the Pew Research Center had done a study, and basically 25% of African American Democrats self-identify as conservative. So 1 in 4 black Democrats call themselves conservatives. 43% call themselves moderates, and that leaves only about a third. Only a third of black Democrats refer to themselves as liberal. So that's where the shock comes in. If we take those numbers and we start applying them to the South, where African Americans are more plentiful, and then in states that are more conservative, I think it's a sure bet that in most of the states that I mentioned that are coming up, not just South Carolina, but North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, even Oklahoma and Texas, especially the southern ones, that we will see that African Americans will be more than 25% of the vote that's taking place. It's going to be something higher, some 30, 40. In cases of South Carolina, it's expected to be over 50% of the vote is going to be African Americans. And then also that means too that if nationwide a third of black Democrats, only a third are progressive or self-identified as liberal progressive, we're going to see even more of that, I think, in the states that are about to vote, that are voting today in South Carolina, and then coming in southern states in Tuesday. So we can expect that, again, we're going to, basically what's about to happen is the shock is we're going to almost see the reckoning. We're going to see the reckoning of maybe the candidates that are still in the race not paying as much priority to African Americans as the math tells us they should have. They should have been paying even more attention and priority to African Americans across the board. It's not just simply about South Carolina, but all these other Super Tuesday states, the chunk of Super Tuesday states that are coming up that are pretty significant. And so we're going to actually see the verdict, basically. We are about to see that African Americans, especially those of us reliably voting, have been paying attention. And so what we're going to find is what everyone has been thinking. So what have African Americans, particularly in the South, whose numbers will have a big difference, who are only a third or less of them are self-identified liberals, what do they think about this race and where this is going? So what this basically means is that if Sanders and Warren don't do as well as you expect in the southern states, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised at that. At the same time, and also too, Bloomberg might actually be doing better than let's say if you're a progressive than you think, and you might see bigger results than you expect. On the other hand, that also flips the other way. It's like if Sanders shows better than expected in the southern states, like he does really well, or if Warren does very well, or if Bloomberg does not do very well, you can be assured, based off of the data, in terms of the math, that the African American vote, especially those who are moderate and consider themselves a conservative, had a lot to do with that. So in other words, if it could flip both ways. So Sanders could do very well. He could not do well in the southern state because of black moderate voters, but it actually go the other way. And basically it's like maybe the black moderate voters decided, okay, Sanders, okay. So just bring that up so that all of you in this Yang world can be prepared for this, for what's about to happen. This is going to be a shock to the system. Throughout this, before the voting was happening, I used to joke with Yang Gang that every month or two that everything would be different, like within 2 months, because things change so quickly. Well, now that the voting started, that's happening pretty much on a week timetable, every week. So 3.5 weeks ago, Iowa, then there was change. New Hampshire, there was change. Nevada, there was some change. And we are about to be on the brink of quite a bit of shakeup going on in this race between South Carolina and Super Tuesday coming up. And that this is going to affect even, I'm pretty sure, what Andrew Yang announces and what he plans to do. And so I also say this for those people who are Yang supporters in states that are coming up very soon in March. Part of the problem with media is always looking at the next thing. They're not looking further ahead. And so I'm thinking just even in terms of the week after Super Tuesday, we have some states like Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi coming up. I'll show you a question. Stephanie, what significance of turnout do I predict for the Black community? I don't know. I've actually spoken with when I speak to friends who are voting in South Carolina. The reaction I'm getting is there's a lot of people. There's not really clear. I mean, there really isn't like a clear favorite, and especially for Black voters, Democrats who are voting like regularly, they pretty much see the pros and cons. In my experience, they see the pros and cons of every one of these candidates. So it's not blind loyalty to Biden. They actually see like where he's weak. I'd say that group doesn't really feel the burn, especially the older African Americans. They really don't feel the burn that much. They don't really necessarily like him, generally speaking. And same thing with Warren, except for with Warren, I think it seems like there is a thread of Black Democrats, especially women who are professionals and have master's degrees. They actually tend to see there seems to be some affinity with that, just like we sometimes see like Black business owners and entrepreneurs sometimes tend to have a gravitation towards Bloomberg. There's a lot of latent interest in Yang, I think, within the Black community that has been sort of referred to within the root. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't think, especially in South Carolina, I don't see us in South Carolina basically, quote, throwing away your vote. At the same time, I think there is an understanding, at least on, I think it was a radio show on Thursday, listening to some responses, and that came up. I mean, that where is everybody? Like, there are a lot of people who know about Yang. There's an understanding that the primaries are different than the general, and so we can expect to see is people are just going to vote as they feel or decide they need to vote in the near term, and then but more people will be checking in, most likely, for the general. So with that, so get ready. Let's look for the South Carolina results, and just be ready for the shock, to the system that's about to hit us all very soon. I have no predictions about how exactly it's going to turn out. We all don't know. We are all sitting back, waiting for the verdict from a lot of different states, but in particular, the voice that we're going to hear a strong weight from is for the Black Democrats, most of whom are not progressive. They're mostly moderates and conservatives.